Hey there, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of Pastatime with the Scariest Podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace. Oh my god. I'm Robin Grace. This is Adam Diaz, and
Hello.
today we're here with another episode full of SCPs, I believe.
Indeed.
Yeah. Adam, why don't you tell everyone just a little recap, maybe a little bit of what SCPs are before we get into the whole thing.
So SCPs are a very, very specific thing. SCP, first of all, stands for Secure, Contain, Protect. The website is the SCP Foundation, and each SCP is a different creature or mysterious anomaly that's obviously fictional, that has a set of rules to it, a description,
Is it,
and sort
though?
of...
Is it fictional?
I hope so. It has 3 classes, I think. It's Euclid, Keter, and Wimp. I forget what the third one is, but it basically means that they're safe. It's safe. That's exactly what it is. Good call. So we're going to be reading 4 of those tonight, which I'm really excited about. If you had an SCP that you've written and you're like, yo, I'd really like it if you read this on the show, or if you have a favorite that you'd like to hear us read, Robin, where could they send that submission or suggestion to?
You can send it to our email, which is pastatime@scariest.com. You can also go to our website, which is scariest.com. You fill out the contact us page, and it gets sent to us that way.
Indeed. So we would love to hear from you. For tonight, though, you're going to hear from us. Robin, would you like to go first, or should I?
Why don't you go first? Give us a little taste.
Okay. It's
I was trying to
creepier
think.
when you pause and the word you pause for is taste. Because I know it was unintended and you were trying to think of a good word, but it came out as like, give him a little taste, which is just creepy.
Ew.
All right.
It's so ew.
Since you picked the word taste, I'm going to go with my first one, and I'm going to pick SCP-504. The object class is safe. Special containment procedures for this particular SCP. All seeds, plants, fruit, crossbreeds, and other products of SCP-504 are to be classified as SCP-504. Sometimes they do like 504-1, -2, -3. Nah. For this one, they're all just SCP-504. 504 seeds need no special containment other than to prevent misuse by unauthorized personnel. Grown SCP-504 plants and their fruit should be kept in soundproof rooms. Guards and researchers assigned to maturing or growing SCP-504 are to be equipped with radio-enabled masks which insulate non-transmitted sound and are to be instructed to avoid attempts at humor.
What?
So I wish Robin were around SCP-504 often, and you're going to figure out why here as I read the description. SCP-504 is a species of tomato, physically and genetically identical to that of typical commercially grown tomatoes. It was recovered in redacted Kentucky. I like how they redact the city, but not the state.
I mean, hey, redacted Kentucky sounds like a great town.
It sounds like an actual town in Kentucky. After a woman reported to the police that her farmer husband had been, quote, murdered by his lunch. The Foundation is currently working to identify and destroy loose strains of SCP-504 in the surrounding commercial farming areas. When a poor attempt at humor is made verbally within human hearing range of SCP-504's tomatoes, they instantly accelerate to a speed of at least 100 miles per hour, which is approximately 160 kilometers per hour or 45 meters per second. 45 meters per second can't be right, can it? Yeah, I guess maybe. In the direction of the sound's source. Only mature tomatoes separated from their vines and less than 10% rotted or chemically compromised exhibit this effect once each. Tomatoes do not have to be physically intact, though ingested tomatoes are usually insulated enough from sound to prevent their effects before neutralization by stomach acid. SCP-504 tomatoes seem to reach speeds relative to the inciting attempt at humor, see experiment log. Relevant variables seem to include corniness, humor to length ratio, and use of puns. Language appears irrelevant.
So the quicker the funny is, the faster it gets?
The worse the joke is, the harder it throws itself at you.
Oh, okay.
Here is a log of tests, which is why I really wanted to do this one. Log of tests with SCP-504. The item was one mature 504 tomato. The spoken joke is a hippopotamus a hippopotamus or just a really cool hippopotamus? The result...
God damn it.
Result is no change in velocity. Apparently the tomato liked this one. The next experiment. What's an archaeologist? Someone whose career is in ruins. Tomato clock.
Because archaeology.
Tomato clocked at 124 miles per hour. Subject suffered a broken nose.
Oh my God.
Note, it appears that SCP-504 has a certain quote-unquote taste in jokes. This might indicate sapience or sentience. I hope not. The next one. Spoken. 3 tomatoes are walking down the street. A papa tomato, a mama tomato, and a little baby tomato. Baby tomato starts lagging behind. Papa tomato gets angry, goes over to baby tomato, and smushes him and says, ketchup. That's from Pulp Fiction, whoever wrote this, just FYI. Result, tomato clocked at 264 miles per hour. Subject was rendered unconscious. All right, we continue with the experiments. Spoken. So, I was going to bed and my brother told me, good night, don't let the bed bugs stick their proboscis in your skin and suck your blood. Good luck on a healthy dermis. Says result, 2-second pause before activity. Tomato clocked at redacted. Sound barrier broken. Subject killed.
It's because it doesn't make any sense. It's such a terrible bad joke.
It's like the tomato had to acknowledge how bad it was by pausing for 2 seconds before it killed the person. All right. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 more of these to go. Okay.
Wait, you're going to read every single one of those jokes?
No, some of them are actually like not jokes. They're just like notes or something like that. All right. Here we go. Next one. If you have dentures, don't use artificial sweetener or you'll get a fake cavity.
I hope that one murdered the person.
All tomatoes present clocked at exactly 145 miles per hour. Subject injured, 2 teeth dislodged. This is kind of funny. Okay, the next experiment. I tried to walk into Target, but I missed. Tomato clocked at 200.
These are awful jokes.
That's why the tomato hurts these people.
Awful.
212 miles per hour. Subject severely injured. Right eye destroyed by a piece of tomato. All right, and the last one. The subject here is a portable computer playing a pre-recorded engineering joke for all the engineers out there like Robin. Okay, right. The joke is 2009 is going to be a complex year. We already know the real part. We still have to find the imaginary part. It's
because a complex number is I. It's like imaginary, right?
I have no idea. I was hoping you'd explain it to me. However, the tomato had a supersonic blast detected. The computer was completely vaporized by the tomato's kinetic energy. Sensor readings indicate approximate speed of 2,174 miles per hour. So, yeah, they're tomatoes that throw themselves at people or objects that transmit bad jokes. And that's SCP-504. I hope you enjoyed it.
Can bad jokes be sexually transmitted?
I mean, sometimes sex is a bad joke, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes.
Oh my God!
Depends on who you're having it with, I suppose.
All right, so for my first SCP that I'm going to share with you folks, kind of stems from, and it doesn't stem from anything, but Adam's number for his was 504. Mine is 5040. So it's 5040. And I thought it was hilarious. Once you said what your number was, I was like, what are the odds?
What are the okay. Did I check this one to make sure we haven't covered it?
Yeah.
All right. I remember checking a different number. It was like 55 something or other, but that must be your second one. So
this particular SCP is containment class Euclid, so it's not as dangerous, as lots of other ones are. The description for this one is that it is a non-existent Japanese horror film entitled Tears of Blood, and it spontaneously manifests in human memories. So those that are affected by SCP-5040 will remember going to see this film even when their supposed attendance would contradict any empirical evidence. So even though there's no way they could have seen this film, in their memory, they have seen this film.
So this is like a Mandela effect, Euclid.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. So SCP-5040 afflictions may occur in any place where movies are shown, including cultures where its content would usually be prohibited. So subtitles and or dubbing would be used when appropriate. So in your memory, you see the subtitles for this movie, even though, everybody's different. All the countries are different. Descriptions of the film are always similar in nature, as are the circumstances and events surrounding the viewing. However, reports of SCP-5040's story and characters are never fully consistent, and the film's setting, subplots, character names, and much of the dialogue will be different for each viewer. So everybody that has a memory of seeing this movie has a different movie in their mind, you know? Casting also varies and appears largely arbitrary. So, a broad variety of Japanese performers and entertainment personalities, both living and deceased, have been said to star in the film, even when the actor in question has no real-life associations with the horror genre. Despite these differences, the film's beginning, climax, and ending consistently hew to the same general plot. So, everything is different but the same. It's the same but different.
It's like they all are going along
as
the
our
same
friends
path,
would say.
but they go in a different way. So it's like...
so beginning, middle, end, all the same, but how they get to those is different.
And who's starring in it is different too.
And all the actors, yep.
Gotcha.
After conducting more than 300 interviews, researchers have constructed a detailed synopsis of SCP-5040's most consistent story elements and the most common sequence of events associated with the viewer's memory of their screening attendance. I guess it's a horror movie, so it could have been screaming attendance. So, screenings always seem to begin at sunset, according to all these interviews. If a subject had prior commitments that day or time, they learned that the commitment was abruptly canceled or resolved through unforeseen circumstances. The subject decides to spend their free time by seeing a movie at a local theater. Upon arrival, they see a large crowd gathered at the box office and learn the entire theater has been reserved for a special event, a one-time only screening of a rare, critically acclaimed film. Admission is free. Drawn in by the excitement, the subject indulges their curiosity and gets in line for a ticket. Most seats are already occupied when the subject reaches the auditorium, but they find an empty space in the back. They notice that a large number of people throughout the audience wear disposable face masks, even if this practice is not common in the local culture. The woman who takes the seat next to the subject wears one such mask, as does the woman beside her. The remaining seats are quickly taken, but patrons continue to file in. By the time the lights dim, the audience completely fill the aisles and stairs, leaving the areas around the exits standing room only. An IV pole carrying a bag of unknown fluid may be seen protruding from the crowd, but with no clear indication who it is connected to. The subject might also notice that elsewhere in the theater, one of the masked audience members wears a hospital gown. There are no trailers or advertisements before the film. The theater goes silent when it begins. So for the film that people see, it opens with a female protagonist. Obviously, we don't know who the actor is. It's always different. Going about mundane activities in her day-to-day life. She's interrupted by a phone call from an unknown party who tells her that a loved one has been hospitalized. When the protagonist leaves her apartment to go to the hospital, she's attacked by a male assailant and loses consciousness. When the protagonist wakes up, she finds herself in an unfamiliar building with her arms and legs bound. She's accompanied by a number of other female captives, some of whom still remain unconscious. The women briefly discuss the possibility of escape. It's pretty much, typical horror movie. A kidnapper comes in, explains that he intends to release them after 24 hours, but only if they don't cry. And throughout the film, the kidnapper does a whole bunch of horror movie-esque things. And despite their best efforts, the captives can't hold back any of their tears, and so they start getting murdered in this movie. And then eventually only the protagonist is left. Frustrated by the protagonist's resolve, the kidnapper gradually escalates with, the torture. And the protagonist only, is snarky, and is like, come at me, bro, which angers the kidnapper because they want to see,
tears,
their captives cry. Yeah. So as the protagonist makes a speech against the kidnapper, the subject notices that there seems to be an echo to the dialogue. So we're back to outside the movie, right? So the person seeing this movie notices an echo. Eventually they realize that the two masked women sitting beside them are repeating every single line as the movie is going on. And if they look further down, they see that the lower half of the women's masks are saturated with saliva, and their hands are clasped together so tightly that their fingernails have begun to draw blood.
Ew.
So it's like they're saying every single line, and as they're repeating every single line, their masks are getting just all wet with spit, and their hands are just so tightly, like, they're holding their own hands together so tightly that their nails are cutting into their skin. So at the film's climax, the kidnapper approaches the protagonist with a razor blade and announces that if she is freed, she'll spend the rest of her life disfigured. And then they argue and talk about beauty, all that fun stuff, inner, outer, whether, it matters if you're pretty or not, which I think is actually a very common topic when it comes to Japanese filmmaking, like the value of women in society and things like that. Eventually, the kidnapper loses his patience, throws the protagonist to the floor, and grabs her face. And at this point, the subject, the person that's watching this movie, hears groans from unidentified members of the audience. The movie continues, and in the movie, the kidnapper grabs her lower lip between thumb and forefinger and does, cuts it off. Gross. And it just does a bunch of horror.
For a movie that's supposed to be different
things.
For everyone that sees it, it seems to have very specific scenes that always seem to play out,
I think the way it happens, all the murders, things like that in the movie may have be different.
But this part
but really,
is the same.
Yeah, is all the same.
So these girls that have the masks are definitely going to not have lower lips. Can we all agree on that?
I think so too, but we'll see. So, before the kidnapper can react to the protagonist fighting him off, she grabs the razor, slices his left eye open, kidnapper screams, and she escapes. It's just, it goes through the whole movie, right?
It's someone basically pitching their movie plot via SCP.
The kidnapper rips, her lip off. And as he's happy with what he's done to her face, she ends up freeing herself, kills the kidnapper. And then at this point, whereas the film's previous murders often differ between manifestations, all interviewees gave consistent descriptions of the violent climax. So everything is different except this main part. And they displayed a greater degree of clarity in their recollection of this scene than at any other point in the film. So about 80% of subjects also reported that the movie's climax was accompanied by a profound sense of dread, but did not attribute the feeling to the movie itself. So, continuing on with the movie, the protagonist hurries to the exit as the kidnapper bleeds to death on the floor. Even though her speech is impeded by her injuries, she pauses before leaving to mock the kidnapper one last time, calmly telling him that he cried tears of blood because she cut his eye, right? And therefore he had to die according to his own rules. So the film abruptly cuts to an unspecified point in the future. She now wears a face mask to hide her disfigured mouth. The protagonist walks down the street to her apartment, indifferent to the crowd of paparazzi that follow her. When she finally reaches her bedroom, the protagonist slowly takes off her mask and looks at herself in the mirror. She stares in silence at the missing lower portion of her face and sheds a tear. Over the course of several minutes, her weeping gradually builds into frenzied sobs and shrieks. The film cuts to black and the credits roll, but the sound of the protagonist's cries continue to play with no other audio until the credit reel ends. So at this point, other audience members largely remain silent after the movie ends, exchanging only whispers as they exit the theater. Subjects have claimed to have seen small red puddles and stains on the theater floor on their way out. Those who remain past this point will experience an escalating feeling of unwelcomeness until they are driven to leave. So I think, because of how they make it seem, right, is that everybody is missing a bottom lip, and that's why their mask gets wet down there. Why else would everybody be wearing a face mask?
Plus, there's blood places. Like it doesn't seem like they just have been missing it for a while. It seems like some of them just lost it.
Right. It's just, ugh. The idea of it creeps me out. It's just gross. Gross. But yeah, that is the tale of SCP-5040.
That's it? Wow. I thought there would be like a little bit more explanation as to what the hell happened. It's more about the movie plot.
Yeah, gross.
Right on. Well, confusing, but also mysterious. So it felt a lot like a creepypasta rather than an SCP. So
it seems like it's something that you can't control, right? You can't really control this movie, but
I mean, I would just not go see it. That's
but it seems, well, no, because the memory pops up in people's minds that they've watched this movie.
Oh yeah.
Remember? So it's not that they can control it, it just pops up in their minds.
How is this an SCP? That's what I don't get. If it's just a memory that appears, it's not a creature.
It's just
There's
an
nothing you can do
entity.
to secure, contain, or protect.
Right. It's just an entity that keeps popping up in people's minds. So, okay. So for special containment procedures of this memory, right? A Foundation web crawler named Kappa-08, codename Shinigami. Get it? Like Shinigami, but Shinigami, but Shinigami. So, they seek and suppress all references of SCP-5040 in online discussions and entertainment news, and anti-memetic inoculations against the propagation of SCP-5040 are in development. So they're trying to make it so that people forget about this movie and having seen it, which I think is their goal. And that's why, yeah, I don't know. But yeah.
Right on. I mean, it's very interesting, very well written, and very well thought out.
Hey, it's Pastatime. So. If it sounds more like a creepypasta, it works still.
Yeah, right on. So before we move into our next story, we are going to take a really quick commercial break. And we're back. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move into my next SCP, and this one is SCP-1048. And its object class is safe with the strike through, and next to that is Keter.
Oh, so it used to be safe, and then it got bad. It got
correct.
Super bad.
So, special containment procedures for SCP-1048. The first sentence I'm about to read you has a strike through it, so it no longer applies. But what they used to think is SCP-1048 is currently free to roam Site-24 as it poses no threat and has been observed to greatly improve the morale of personnel that interact with it. That's gone. That doesn't happen anymore. Now what it says is the whereabouts of SCP-1048 are currently unknown, though it is still believed to be somewhere in Site-24.
Okay.
Subject is to be secured for containment, but any creation of SCP-1048s should be destroyed on site, unless further evidence warrants less extreme actions. Kill on site for anything that SCP-1048 has created.
Costs.
No teddy bears are to be allowed in Site-24 to prevent any confusion or mistaken identity.
So
any object that resembles a teddy bear is to be reported to the security team immediately. This is not a joke. We have no idea what SCP-1048's full capabilities are. Who knows how many damn things are out there by now.
Okay, wow. So this SCP looks like a bear, like a little teddy bear.
Description: SCP-1048 is a small teddy bear, approximately 33 centimeters in height. Through testing, composition of the subject revealed no unusual qualities that make it discernible from a non-sapient teddy bear.
I mean, that's cuddly size, right? 30-something.
It should be named Ted. 33 centimeters? I don't know how long that is. I mean, I'm an inches person. All right.
Yeah,
through testing,
I
read that part. I knew you were going to say that. Subject is capable of moving of its own accord and can communicate through a small range of gestures. The subject regularly shows affection to individuals in ways found endearing by most people. Affection is usually given in the form of a hug to the lower leg, but subject has also been observed dancing, jumping in place, and in 2 separate events it has even drawn childlike pictures for janitorial staff. All Foundation personnel that have interacted with the subject have responded positively to its affection, even D-Class with normal sociopathic tendencies. Poor D-Class. Attempts at direct communication with SCP-1048 have not been considered successful. Though it is capable of simple gestures to indicate a yes or a no, it will often not react to lines of questioning concerning its nature or where it originated from. It is not known if this is because SCP-1048 simply does not know the answers, or because it does not want to answer. Though capable of drawing pictures, it has not used its art as a form of communication beyond showing affection, even when encouraged to do so. The more anomalous behavior of 1048 was not observed until approximately 7 months after it was originally secured. It is hypothesized that the subject is able to construct crude replicas of itself using various materials by a process that is yet to be observed directly by Foundation staff. Dr. Carver has suggested that SCP-1048 uses its endearing qualities to lull those around it to a false sense of security, allowing it to collect materials to produce these creations. Currently, there are 3 known creations of SCP-1048, designated 1048-A, 1048-B, and 1048-C. The nature of these creations has been in stark contrast to 1048's general behavior, as all have exhibited extreme violence towards humans. And now,
Murder by Teddy Bear.
SCP-1048-A. On redacted date, 1048-A was discovered wandering Site-24 accompanied by SCP-1048. Subject resembles a teddy bear, similar in size and shape to 1048, but it is made entirely out of human ears. Witnesses interviewed reported that it appeared 1048 was giving a quote-unquote tour of Site-24 to 1048-A. Dr. Carver was called to the scene along with a security team. The security team arrived first and attempted to contain 1048-A. Subject emitted a high-pitched shriek that inflicted intense pain in the eyes and ears of everyone within a 10-meter radius. Ear-like growths immediately began growing on those within 5 meters of the subject, covering their bodies in less than 20 seconds.
Imagine how that would feel if your body started growing ears, right? And like, you know how your ears feel right now? Imagine like rubbing your arm and it's just the flaps of your ears, just like, ugh. Just the idea of just like having...
Sometimes you don't realize you have an aversion to something until you have it pictured for you. And I do not like this ear person that you just described at all. Burn it, kill it with fire.
I mean, the bottom parts, if I felt the bottom parts in one direction, unless they all grow in different directions, that'd be crazy. But like the soft bottom lobe parts would be okay. But like the cartilage part, like imagine like flipping the cartilage parts. Ugh. Bleh.
Yeah, bleh indeed. All right, I'm going to keep reading this. Every person afflicted with this symptom died within 3 minutes, resulting in the death of redacted number of personnel, including the entire security team. Autopsies revealed the cause of death to be asphyxiation caused by an abundance of the ear-like growths manifesting in the mouths and trachea of all victims. 1048 and 1048-A fled the scene before Dr. Carver arrived and have not been contained since the incident, though sightings of both have been reported on multiple occasions. Shortly after this incident, a researcher was discovered missing an ear. According to him, it was removed through unknown means while he was sleeping. No other victims of ear removal were found, so it is unclear if SCP-1048 obtained more ears from another source, or if it is capable of duplicating objects or materials.
Okay.
Ugh. All right, here we go. 1048-B. Let's see if this one's grosser. Subject was discovered by several Foundation staff members in the cafeteria of Site-24 on redacted date. Subject's appearance was nearly identical to 1048, but it moved in an irregular, jerky manner. Witnesses reported that it appeared as if something was moving inside of 1048-B.
No. Imagine a teddy bear and there's just things trying to get out of it. Eee.
It's like it has a skeleton that's trying to escape. Subject made no attempt to interact initially until a burst in its seams revealed what appeared to be the hand and arm of a human infant poking out and grasping at the air.
No.
At the sight of this, the female researcher named Redacted screamed, and 1048-B emitted a high-pitched cry similar to that of a human infant. The subject then attempted to data expunged the screaming researcher, causing massive internal damage. In the ensuing chaos, the security team was then forced to redacted both the researcher and 1048-B.
Murder them both.
Approximately 3 hours after this incident, Dr. Redacted was found unconscious and bleeding in her office. All right. Information regarding the possible origin of SCP-1048-B is not to be leaked to the survivors currently undergoing therapy for the incident, as Dr. Carver believes it would be extremely detrimental to their recovery.
Your topic, your SCP is just a million times worse than my SCPs this episode.
Yours is pretty bad. All right, I'm moving on to C. 1048-C, and this is the shortest description of one of these. Subject resembles a teddy bear, similar to SCP-1048, but composed entirely of rusted metal scraps. Subject was first cited on date redacted by Dr. Carver in his office while writing up a report on the 1048-B incident. Subject fled the room when it noticed Dr. Carver observing it. So it walked in and was like, shit, and ran away. In the attempted pursuit of 1048C, Dr. Carver witnessed the death and maiming of blank Foundation personnel, so a number redacted, as the subject exhibited extreme violence during its escape. 1048C has not been encountered since this initial sighting. It is unknown whether it still resides somewhere within Site-24. The origins of any materials possibly used to construct 1048C by 1048 are also unknown at this time. And then there's a note from Dr. Carver here that says, I cannot stress this enough. The damn thing jumped right through those poor people. Ugh.
I'm imagining like an Edward Scissorhands type thing, and it just like had a bunch of knives for hands, and then did a little thing where it dove and spun a bunch and just ripped through people.
I'm imagining, I can't remember the character from Soul Calibur, but they look like they have knives for hands, and they're like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I've never played
no one can hear my voice. You've never played Soul Calibur? Whatever.
Maybe I've played Soul Calibur before.
So that's the end of that one. All right.
Okay, so my final SCP of the night is 5545. And this one's rated as safe, so that means it's completely like controlled, contained. The description for this one is that it is a series of interrelated anomalous objects and phenomena. So, phenomena.
I was going to say, would you call it phenomena?
So, SCP-5545-1 appears as a series of hallways manifesting within the subterranean complex of Provisional Site 344-1, and instances appear in various forms, but it will always lack doors or discernible markings, possess light fixtures at regular intervals, and be indistinguishable architecturally from its surroundings. Although 5545-1 instances extend indefinitely, these hallways cannot be entered from any other location. It is believed that SCP-5545-1 intersects an extra-dimensional space. 5545-2 is an entity located within Site 344-2. And no further information on that one is provided. But -3 is a phenomenon resulting in -2's interaction with -1, during which the area of effect will exponentially increase with time, resulting in the manifestation of -1 occurring globally within a period of 4 to 6 hours. This will continue so as long as -2 is present within -1. Subversively, -1 will logarithmically decrease in its area of effect, while
this is like the architect from Matrix 2 being like vis-a-vis
concordantly. Although this is not the limit to the relationship between -2 and -1, further information would constitute a containment breach. Okay, so if -2 is within the area of -1, -1 just gets bigger. So I'm sure like the hallway or the areas in which it's like an infinite just walking area just continues and continues and continues unless -2 is taken away. You get me? All right.
No, but keep going. I'm going to catch up.
So, although the exact details behind SCP-5545's discovery are unclear, its central anomaly was believed to have been repeatedly discovered by colonial explorers since the 1700s. Due to their interactions with SCP-5545-1 and -2, and in some cases the indirect activation of -3, a vast majority of colonial explorers who learned of the anomaly died, either from the anomaly itself or suicidal tendencies provoked by it. The total number of casualties during this period are believed to number around 70. On September 8th, 2003, Foundation researchers discovered 5545 during an expedition into Antarctica. The anomaly was initially believed to be confined to -1, and a provisional site was quickly established. However, after discovering the site in which -2 was located, 16 members of the research team died. After investigation, the current containment procedures were set in place, which are to have this structure built around it, the Site 344-1, and at least 18 individuals must be present within 344-1 at all times. 344-2 contains, obviously, -2 version of this SCP via an association lock, which is probably SCP Foundation terminology. All Foundation personnel entering -1 must be presented with the following phrase. SCP-5545-2 is contained in Site 344-2. -3 will remain inactive as long as -1 and -2 are contained. So -3 really doesn't do much in most instances. That's probably
a good thing.
I bet later down the line, though, there's probably a -3 that's like, fucking shit up. So between December 3rd, 2003 and November 15th, 2019, 29 mobile task force units have been sent into SCP-5545-1. 73 D-class personnel were sent in.
D-class, the ones they called sociopaths in my thing.
Is it? None have been accounted for since.
Fuck.
Another expedition was scheduled for December 21st, 2019, but was prevented from occurring. On November 18th, 2019, Director Jason Monroe, wow, that's very specific, submitted a formal inquiry to investigate the documentation surrounding 5545 and the extensive loss of human life and general misconduct of staff in the site. Director Monroe was permitted to conduct this investigation, and a full list of relevant documentation can be found below. There's just a whole bunch of different investigations. He goes to visit all of the, I don't know. I'm not going to read all of these because they're so long.
I thought this was supposed to be your short one.
This is my short one. That's why I'm not going to read, the whole thing. But, so a whole bunch of investigations happen. He talks to the different people that work at the different sites. And eventually he goes in with a video camera and does his own investigation, expedition of -1. And while he goes in, he kind of walks through, and it's, again, it's like a never-ending tunnel. He starts getting distressed about what he's seeing within that. In one room that he comes across, there's the body of a girl that he sees just hanging there. It's like he's starting to see dead bodies hanging from the ceiling, and he just freaks out. And I think it's making him see these things. And eventually he's like, I get it. You want me to make a choice. And it's like forcing him to do that to himself. So it's like bad for you to be within this SCP, pretty much. Lots of trauma for this one dude, apparently. But if you guys want to read all the reports, you guys can go ahead and read it. It's SCP-5545. And
Robin's done reading to you folks. Go fuck yourselves. Go read it now.
I mean, if you want me to read it, but it'll take 30 fucking minutes.
No, it's fine. You said you picked a short one, so I'm shocked when you said short and it's that fucking long.
Yeah, there's just a lot of, you know how SCPs normally have amendments, addendums? That's the word?
Yes.
And it's one of those things where there's a whole bunch of different reports that you can read on it. But it's pretty traumatizing for people that have gone in to it, apparently. And the director that goes in during this investigation just gets real fucked up. And it kind of takes his own backstory and torments him with it. So.
Right on. If you're interested in hearing about that, go ahead and check out SCP-5545, you said it was?
Yep.
All right. Cool. Good stuff, Robin. Tormenting. I like how upset you were by mine, but you told us about some even much more horrific things. Mine had an ear person in it, which was unpleasant, but whatevs. All right. I think that's going to be it for this episode of Pastatime featuring SCPs. I want to thank everyone who listened and watched us live. We record these every Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. If you would like to watch us record them live, it's very interactive. We talk with you guys a ton. We have a little bit of prizes that we give away at the end of each show every single time. You can go ahead and check us out at youtube.com/scaryish and twitch.tv/scaryish podcast. We would love to see you in a live stream. Just want to thank everyone who listened and watched one more time. Let you know that if you have a Pastatime, if you have a SCP that you would like to submit or suggest that we read, you can email pastatime@scaryish.com or go to our website, scaryish.com. Click on Contact Us, fill out that form. It comes directly to us. Or you can hit us up on our social medias. Facebook is facebook.com/scarishpodcast. Twitter is @scarishpod. And Instagram is @scarishpodcast. Robin, for folks who would like to donate to us, how can they do so?
You can go to patreon.com/scarishpodcast. Those are monthly donations. Tiers start at $1. And at $1 you get ad free. So Adam always says ad free is the way to pay.
Adverse the way.
I didn't even understand what you just said.
No
All right.
one
You can also go to coffeeko-fi.com/scarishpodcast. Those are one-time donations. All your donations go to helping us upgrade our studio setup. Though right now our studio setup's kind of bare because we live in completely
two
different
studios.
states.
Yeah.
And kind of helps keep the show going. I was gonna say on the road, but it's not on the road. We sit in our rooms all day. Well, for the streams. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for being here and listening to us.
Yeah, we sincerely appreciate it. And that's everything we got. So, Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.